welcome to Mr. Otter Studio. Today I'm going to show you an awesome technique for drawing landscapes using oil pastels. Now these landscapes are actually drawn over a photograph of a landscape that you have taken yourself. Find a photograph that you've taken this summer that you love, or a landscape that you visited, or one that's right outside your window, and you can use it for this tutorial. You can take the picture with your phone, you don't need a nice camera. These are great gifts for someone if you just went on a trip. The reason I really like this technique is because it teaches you how to use your oil pastels. So you have to choose the colors that fit in with this photograph or this image, and then you have to learn how to lay them down. So we're going to be drawing the large shapes in and then moving to the small shapes. And then very last, we are going to add the details. This tutorial is great for beginners, intermediate, and advanced. These are the supplies that you need. The first thing you need is a printout of the photograph that you want to use. And I used an inkjet printer, but I'm sure any printer will work. Just make sure you're printing it onto the normal printer paper, not the really shiny photo paper. You could also do this in black and white too, I guess. Definitely don't have to add color. So get your printout, and you need some oil pastels. You can choose whichever brand you like. I really like cray-pas, junior artist, or expressionist oil pastels. Just get what's in your budget, get what is available. And I'm just going to use the smaller set. This is a set of 50, so it actually isn't that small. If you have a smaller set, just simplify your colors a little bit. You can also mix them. And I also like to have a paper towel, just in case I draw something I don't really like, I can just hurry and rub it out. You can also use this to blend and to pick up little pieces of oil pastel to get on your paper. And also, one thing that your paper towel is good for, you can clean off your oil pastels with your paper towel. So all you need is your printout, some oil pastels, and a paper towel. Also be aware that oil pastels can get messy, so I would work somewhere where if you get one of these on the floor, you can wipe it off, not on carpet or anything like that. Let's get started. Step number 1 is to print the image that you're going to use. Step number 2 is to choose the colors that you want to use, or the colors that you see in it. Your colors will definitely be different than mine, and you probably won't be able to find the exact colors, so we're just looking for something similar. And maybe your landscape's really simple. Maybe it's a sunset and you don't have all of these colors. So look at your photograph and just choose some of those colors that are in it so that when we start, you kind of are ready and you have them there. After you choose most of the colors that are in your photograph, I would definitely move them to the side. And you can keep them in your set, of course. I'm just keeping mine here so you can see what I'm using. Tip number 1, when you're drawing a landscape, work far to near. So I like to start with the sky and then move slowly towards the foreground or towards the area that's closest to me. And I would definitely recommend doing that. And the first thing you want to do is block in some of these shapes. So your biggest shapes. So I'm going to block in maybe the sky first. And also, one thing that your paper towel is good for, you can see I got some black in there. You can clean off your oil pastels with your paper towel to keep them workable, and so you don't get like pink in the middle of your sky, which I might. And you can just make it loose. You know, just try to cover those areas. I like to blend dark into light, light over dark. So I'm just going to add some of this blue in some of these areas. Then I'm going to take my white and I'm just going to blend out those areas so they're a little bit smoother. So this totally changed my sky, but I wanted this brighter blue. And that's the cool thing with doing these landscapes is you can kind of make it into what you want it to be. So clean off your colors and just block those areas in. If you have an area like this field right here where you have dark areas and light colors next to each other, if you want them to blend together, I would draw the dark parts first. If you don't want them to blend together, I would draw the light areas first and then come back in for the dark areas. If you're limited on colors like I am, I don't have this dark green, you could actually add like a little bit of brown over at the top. So feel free to mix your colors on top of there. So if you want your green to be darker, you could either add a little black, a little brown, even a little bit of red. I probably wouldn't use red in this case. So I'm using this on the side. I'm just kind of covering some of these areas with it. So if you have a large area like I have of this yellow, what I'm going to do is take this color that's a little bit darker and cover it, and then I'm going to take my white and I can either smooth it out like this, or I can just come in and try to blend those pieces out. I can still keep it lighter. I could also come in with that lighter yellow if I wanted to. I don't want like white lines, so I'm just lightly coming over it with this white. And down in here, I might, add just some actual strokes. But in some of these areas, I want it to be loose, so I'm just using the side of my oil pastel and covering it. And you might have some loose areas. If you have any areas that bother you, like up here, these are a little bit too light, you can use your finger or you can use your paper towel to just soften them up. If there's any pieces that kind of stand out too much, soften them up, kind of rub them out a little bit. All right, so now we have most of these colors blocked in. I just need to work on these plants up in the front right here. So you can see the photograph is underneath, but I've just layered these colors on. I don't have very many details. It looks a little bit detailed because of the photograph that's underneath, but really quick and super easy. Now I'm working on some of the detail work. Since these posts are small, I would definitely consider them a detailed area, but you can still see bits of barbed wire. So before I do that detail, I just want to make sure, are these areas behind these posts what I want them to be? And also don't press so hard and then you won't break your oil pastel. One thing I also recommend is have two pictures that you're working from, because as you start working in this, you're going to lose some of those details. Like you might not be able to see where these posts are over here anymore. So use your photograph to add in some of those details. So I'm just taking my orange oil pastel and just lightly going over some of these areas. I'm kind of just stretching it. This is the fun part. This is where you get to put the details in, or any of the lines that you lost, you can put them back in. For example, up in here, I lost a ton of details. And so what I'm going to do is actually grab a brown to put in some of these areas. And this is turned into more of a blue as it kind of gets away. So I'm just going to grab this blue and add a tiny bit of it blue, because this is a little bit further away. I'm just using some blue to create this new color back here. So just look at it and try to find those areas where you might need a little bit more detail, or if your colors jump too quickly from one to another, then you can grab some of your other colors and you can kind of blend them a little bit using that darker color or the lighter color. You can also use your paper towel to smooth out some of those areas and just kind of smudge them out. If you've got an area that's standing out too much or you don't like it, you can definitely do that. And then I definitely am losing some shadows that are in here that I need back in. The very last thing you want to do is check it out and make sure, like if you smudged your edges like I did, you might want to cut it out and put it on another sheet of paper. And I would definitely frame it. And that's it. After you've put those levels in, just go ahead and look at it and see if there's any areas that you need to touch up or add a little bit more oil pastel. Sometimes I'll just lift my paper up and get the little pieces of oil pastel off, or I'll just pick them up with my paper towel. You can also use another oil pastel to pick up those pieces. So just look at it from the side and kind of clean up any of those pieces. You don't want them to drag across it. I like to leave a few because the texture is what makes oil pastels so awesome. It makes them look like paint. All right, once you finish putting those colors in there, you can go ahead and sign it and then frame it under glass. That's the best way to keep it safe. As long as it's not moving around, it should be okay. Remember, the oil pastels will smear. So if anything touches this, it's going to smear my colors across the paper. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you learned some techniques that will help you in your oil pastel landscapes, and that you learned an easy way to create artwork from your photographs and to kind of take them to the next level. How to alter your photographs and change them a little bit and make them more interesting. Thank you so much for joining me today on Mr. Otter Studio. I hope you have a wonderful day.